Nope. Nope. That's better. You gotta get white balance right if you want the best looking colors in your videos. Hey everyone, Camber here, back with you, and today we're talking about white balance and why it's such an important setting on your camera. And if you're new here, this channel is all about teaching you how to use your camera to make good videos. So if that's you, consider subscribing. Okay, so white balance is a hugely important setting on your camera, but what does it actually do? Well, the white balance setting allows you to set the overall color for your scene. And white is used as a reference point because it's the perfect sum or blend of all the other color channels. And so if you have your white balance set properly, all of your whites will look white with no color cast, and therefore resulting in each of your other colors being displayed properly as well. But why do we have to do this? Well, not all light sources are equal, and each light source has a specific measurement on the color temperature scale, and this scale is called the Kelvin scale, and all colors of light are measured in kelvins. And this is why when you look at your camera's custom white balance numbers, you'll see a K after them. Anyways, consider how your brain can automatically adjust to changes in color temperature. You can see this by just looking at a piece of white paper under fluorescent light and then go out in the sunlight and see that it still looks like a piece of white paper. However, your camera can't do this, and so we have to tell it what the color temperature of the light is in order for it to accurately adjust the colors to show true white, regardless if you're shooting in candlelight, sunlight, fluorescent light, or whatever. And if you're shooting raw, you can change this in post. However, most entry-level cameras don't have that ability, and so what we want to do is get your white balance as close to correct in camera as possible for the best results. The default setting on your camera is probably auto white balance. The way the auto works is that the camera will analyze all the light sources in the frame and create an automatic setting that attempts to neutralize any color shift. And this setting works pretty well for times when lighting is consistent and of a single type. And I learned out the hard way that if you have any changes of light, such as when you move the camera, then the automatic white balance setting is going to end up changing your colors throughout the scene. This ends up being a pain because you have to try to average out the white balance throughout the shot and post and end up with all the colors being somewhat off. So what we want to do is pick a white balance setting other than auto that will balance the colors in our image and keep it consistent throughout the entire shot. And most DSLRs and point and shoot cameras come with presets set to a certain Kelvin number by the manufacturer. And I'm going to go over Sony's presets with you, but if you have Canon or Panasonic or some other company, you'll find a similar version of these presets. So first up we have auto white balance, and this is represented by an A or AW, and this is where the camera automatically guesses the white balance depending on the ambient light in your shot. Next up is the daylight setting, which is represented by a sun, and it's used when shooting outdoors with the sun shining on your subject. Next up is shade, and this is represented by a house with a shadow, and this is a little bit warmer than the cloudy setting. It's adding orange colors to the shot and is good to use in shades or even in sunsets. Cloudy, which is represented by a cloud, is good to use on cloudy, overcast days. It's going to give you a warmer image than the sunlight setting does. Then there's incandescent, which is represented by a light bulb, and you want to use this strictly when you have things lit by tungsten lights, or else your image is going to end up looking very blue. And then there's the fluorescent, which is represented by a glowing tube, and this is good to use in shots to keep them from looking green when you're shooting under fluorescent lights. And some cameras have multiple fluorescent settings on them depending on the color that the lights are giving off. Then there's flash, which is represented by a lightning bolt, and this is for when you're using an on-camera flash, which is not really applicable for video. Then you have the color temperature setting, which is represented by a K, and this lets you manually change the Kelvin value from 2500 up to 9900, and we're going to cover this in much more depth in another video. And last, there's the custom white balance setting, which is used for color matching with a card, and this will be covered in a future video as well. So those are the white balance presets that you'll find on most cameras. So what you want to do is simply scroll through that list until you find a white balance setting that makes the colors on your viewfinder look the most natural, and then use that for your shot. But something else to keep in mind that's extremely important is to always reset your white balance when you go from indoors to outdoors or from one room to another that has a different type of light. Because even though your eyes may not see the difference in the changes of light from one room to another or during fast changing light conditions like during sunrise or sunset, your camera definitely will, and once you look at your footage played back on your monitor, you'll see it as well. And that's all for white balance presets, so if this video is helpful, go ahead and hit that thumbs up and let me know down below if you do have any more questions about white balance. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and remember that the only way to get better at something is to practice. So get out there and film something. See you soon.